All right, you guys, so with the clutch all together, we're gonna go ahead and focus our attention on this transmission. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this thing up using some Purple Power and a bit of elbow grease. I got a grill wire brush, so we're gonna start brushing this thing up. Hopefully just get rid of some of the dirt and grime. I'm not looking to make it totally new and beautiful. I'd have to go through a machine shop to get it really the way I would want it to look, and that's not gonna happen. So let's just try to clean this thing up the best we can. I'm gonna use my pressure washer, and then we'll reassemble, re-grease everything, and mate it on up. Practice the old deadlifts in the morning. Just wanna get this guy outside so I can start doing some Purple Power on it, on the ground, and not in the garage. So like I said in the intro there, I have realistic expectations of what this should be. I just want to get mostly the grease and grime off of this thing. It's totally gross. So what I'm doing here is just getting rid of this clutch fork and throwout bearing. If you remember from the last video, me saying I am going to reuse this bearing. It has maybe 500 miles on it. Like I said, it has done no miles. It's barely broken in. So I'm just gonna re-grease all this stuff later. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean up all in here first. And I'm gonna take some of these bags here and we'll cover this guy up. Just noticing this, I think when I pulled out the axle, this seal got pressed in way too hard. So I maybe try to back that out, but probably just gonna end up getting a new one. This guy on this side looks good, but why not get new ones, right? So like this speed sensor here, let's go ahead and just bag this up. And just all inside of there, I wanna make sure that there's bags, paper towels, something going on in here, just so nothing gets wet that I don't want to. For a junkyard find, man, I couldn't be happier with this transmission. Z6 transmission, pulled it out of a Del Sol in my local junkyard. Knock on wood that this thing keeps working as it should, but yeah, really happy with it. So we're all bagged up. I'm gonna go ahead and Purple Power now. More weight savings. Purple Power's been sitting on here for about 15 minutes, I'd say. Let's just start scraping up the gunk. And then once I do that for a minute, I got this guy right here. This is just a cheap little electric pressure washer, but 1700 PSI, blasting that thing right on here. I think it's gonna make it look, decent. All right, so the wire brush seemed to loosen up some dirt, so I have another round of Purple Power sitting on here, and then I'll start blasting away. So I'm not going to win any awards at the show with this, but thankfully I don't do that anyway. This is definitely cleaned up from what it was. I see that it obviously still has dirt all over it, but it's really kind of just the dirt that's embedded in that aluminum there. This right here is much, much cleaner than what it was. And, you know, it kind of matches my engine, how it looks. See how it's kind of still got that, you know, same kind of, it still has that same kind of look to it. So if anything, they look like they belong together. I'm happy with that. Alright, so the trans is looking good. All cleaned up. I'm happy with it. It, of course, could be better, but again, I'm happy with it. It's a race car. So what I'm going to be doing here is working with the clutch fork, the throwout bearing in this pin. Y'all have seen me do this before, and there's a bunch of tutorials and stuff, so that's not going to be this video. I'm just going to be greasing this guy up in all the spots it needs to be. Again, I'm reusing this throwout bearing. This thing is really nice and new. It doesn't spin too loosely or anything like that. It's just a good bearing still. So I'm reusing this guy. I'm gonna go ahead and use this grease. We're gonna lube up the splines here and get a big dollop of grease up on this ball, and then we'll get the fork on. The big thing here, of course, is that you want to make sure that butterfly pin is sitting around either side of that ball. That way this thing can move freely here, and you see that it gets stuck on that ball, which is what you want. And that's why you want plenty of grease back there so this thing can pivot easily. And you see up at the front here, it's working good. All right, so that's all together, greased up. I'm not gonna mate it up to the engine just yet. What I'm gonna do is take this intake manifold off of the Y8, move it on over, got a new gasket for that. And then I also need to move this motor mount over. So I gotta remove all this stuff here, and then we'll do the same and change that mount out. Sure everything else is detached. So this is still the back of the Y8. Something I realized that I do want to move over is this water pipe. This pipe here, it doesn't have any outlet coming here. The water pipe from the new D16A has some weird pipe coming out here that I would need to block off, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to remove this. I already got a new O-ring for this side of the water pipe, so I'm going to pop that out. This side already has a new O-ring from before. And I'm also going to remove this black box and move it over here, just because I don't like this connection as much, where it's got this 90-degree angle piece here. This one here just comes straight out, and it fits perfectly with my intake manifold. I already know that. And oh yeah, I forgot there's still water behind the pipe. Jeez. So I'm just sitting here scraping off this old intake manifold gasket, and it's coming along good. But look at this. Look at the difference between the cylinder head and the block. Look familiar? I kind of wonder if this thing has a new head gasket on it. Obviously you can't really tell just sitting here like this, but this cylinder head looks pretty refreshed to me. Inside the passageways here, it doesn't necessarily look super cleaned up, but if y'all remember underneath the valve cover here, it looks really clean. And that's definitely different than what the bottom is. I wonder if the head gasket was changed on this. I just hope to God that it was never overheated super bad. It would be burning oil and I'd be having the same exact situation on my hands. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Then the universe would have such a cruel sense of irony. But let's hope not. Just opened up my new water pipe O-ring here, and I'll go ahead and change this guy out. With the new water pipe O-ring on, there we go. Got the intake manifold side on the block cleaned up, as well as the manifold itself. Here is a new cheapo depot gasket, and water pipe is on, black box is on, and now the Z6 manifold is on. Since I have a bunch of new hardware from the engine, I'm gonna go ahead and use these guys, which look better than the ones that came off, to put this guy back on. I should have got these nuts too when I ordered all my bolts from Honda, but oh well, these will look better. Intake manifold and all the connections are done, looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and start taking this crank pulley off, and then we'll go ahead and get that mount. Crank pulley with the key off. I need to go ahead and remove this lower cover here. That way I can get to this mount. Pretty interesting, something that I think definitely lends this engine to being low mileage and, you know, untouched really. This is still the Yamada Honda oil pump, and more so, this is a Honda brand water pump that's up here. So yeah, this thing really probably wasn't touched too much. But anyway, I have my 14 mil loaded up on here. Just got this one bolt, and there goes the mount. And still the Honda timing belt as well. All right, so that's the 2-post mount on, and the other one, well, that's gonna be trash. But very cool, man. I am really making some progress here. The water pump I am going to change out. I just don't have it yet. I believe I'm gonna get the Gates piece, and then probably the Gates timing belt as well. You know, maybe that blue one, the high strength one, just because we're just gonna be revving, right? So why not? Definitely new tensioner and spring. That one looks a little bit rusted out. And just so you know, I am still waiting on my brand new Yamada Honda oil pump. It has been ported. I am still waiting on that, but I wouldn't be changing that out right now anyway. I want to get it up in the car, and that way everything will be supported, and it'll be much easier to drop the oil pan to get to that. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I think I'm going to be mating up the trans now to finish up this episode, but first I just wanted to show you guys this. Check this out. Brand new piece for the alternator, the top mounting bracket, and then here we have a brand new bottom bolt. and nut. And you may be like, dude, why a brand new piece on this, dirty looking motor? Well, because I'm just so sick of dealing with frozen and stuck bolts. I just slowly want to start getting these pieces together, and I have a whole bag here of new bolts and all the nuts and everything, because this guy over here has been a real pain. This bottom bolt here is totally chewed, and I think it's going to be much easier to try to take it off now that it's out of the car and I can, get some leverage on the thing. But man, like both these bolts up here and the bottom one, it makes it so hard to pivot this thing. Like I can't even pivot this thing right now because of this bottom bolt. So with new bolts on that one, I'm really excited about that. And then this whole unit here, I'm gonna trade this guy in for a brand new, refurbished OBD1 alternator. So from a 92 to 95. It'll just look nicer and newer. I'll know it's a newer piece, it's been rebuilt, and it's just gonna look better and help me to access those bolts better. All right, it's the little things, you guys. All right, for my final act of today's video anyway, I'm going to break my back and try to get this guy on here. Deadlifts, right? That's why we practice these things. So actually, in that bag of new bolts, I remembered I have new trans bolts here, just to seal it all up. Yeah, they look pretty shiny and new compared to everything else, but hey, it's cool, right? And also new bolts. I'm gonna be removing these guys and putting these in. My thinking behind this, is that I have these awesome new Hasport mounts. And, I just want something a little nicer to be sitting, grabbing onto those things. It would just look gross, with this awesome polished new mount and then having this gross, rusty old bolt. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't need to do it, but hey, it looks good, right? Okay, so truth be told, that was surprisingly easier to mate up that trans than I thought it would be. The last time I tried to do this, it was so tough. I don't even know why. So maybe this is just a good sign that this thing is just gonna work out, right? Let's hope, you guys, let's hope. We got a lot done today, right? And this thing is really coming along, man. Say goodbye to the Y8 pretty much. I'm gonna keep the cylinder head. I think Travis is gonna be taking that for maybe a later use. And like I said, I still need to get that alternator off, but I'm gonna trade it in and get a new refurbished one. Just something nice and new to go on the new engine. So yeah, really what I think is next is we got to get this thing in the car. So yeah, be staying tuned for that. Talk to you in the next one.